and tricks that are useful for you. I am a school librarian in McPherson, Kansas, and this is my email address if you have any questions after the time in my, now that I look at it, probably very outdated website, but there we are. So the first thing you probably want to think about when you are wanting to kind of explore the world of graphic design for your library is just to think about, what do you want to do and make and create? Because of course there are a lot of different programs out there now, and some of them do a lot of things, in a shallow way. Some of them do, a few things very, very well, and then some of them kind of fall somewhere in the middle. So if you're kind of new to this process, probably the first thing you want to think about is, am I mostly wanting to make posters to put up? Am I mostly wanting to email? Is it your teachers? Is it your students? Is it people in the community? How are you going to put this out there? Is it mostly social media, or is this something that you want to actually print and hand someone? Because not all these tools are going to do all of those things that you may want to do. So for example, S'more is something that I used quite a bit several years ago. One of the things I liked about it was that it did make newsletters that you could very easily email people, and it did have this tracking feature. So if I looked at this flyer on the back end, I could see how many people have looked at this flyer. And it has like a little bit of analytics tools, which is a little bit unique. Obviously, your social media or a website could also do the same thing, but this was all integrated and I kind of liked it. But then I went away from this program because I really wanted a chance to print and have it look really nice. And I just always struggle getting my S'more flyers to line up and print the way I wanted them to. And also the price went up. So just those are the kinds of things I was thinking about, at the end. How am I going to get this out to people? Because it sucks to make this whole creation that you love and you spend a lot of time on, and then it either doesn't print and look nice or it doesn't email the way you want it to. So if you're just getting started, my suggestion is don't reinvent the wheel. So think outside the box for what kind of templates are already out there that you can just kind of fill in your own information. So I use Canva a lot now, and they have newsletters that are already built in that, you can just kind of put the picture, like put your picture in place of their picture or put your words in place of their words. But also think outside the box for templates. So for example, last year, the ALA award winners, I knew I wanted to promote those and put up a flyer in my library so that teachers and students could see what they were. But I couldn't really find any newsletter that was really visual that I liked. So instead what I did is I just went around to see what people had already created. So on the left, Granite School District Libraries, they had made this for 2019. And obviously I needed 2020, but I thought, this is great. Like the way this is set up, like I could do this, I have the picture, so I don't have to visually think about how to line my page up. So even though this wasn't like a cut and paste type template, I was able to at least print the one on the left and look at it and use it to create my template. Use stock clip art. So some of these programs obviously have clip art embedded. If you Google free clip art, you can often find things. If you find stuff online, images that are clip art that are not, they don't have that transparent background, you can use Remove BG, which is a website. And I will talk about that a little bit later to make something work more like clip art and make that transparent background. Ask people for pictures. This is the hardest one for me because when I get busy doing something in the library that's kind of fun or cool, I don't think to take a picture of it. I don't like to have my phone just kind of on me all day long while I'm at work. So I try to remember and ask people fairly frequently to be those picture takers for me or to send me pictures. Um, so it's not always just me. And also, if you get other people to take pictures, sometimes you're in the picture too, which is nice to highlight yourself in that teaching role. Plan out your newsletter. So I'm gonna show you, when I was making this last week, I was kind of sort of starting to think about my November newsletter. And so this is what it looked like. This was just a template that was already on Canva that I just kind of cut and pasted as my own. And I just kind of started building it when I had like those free like 20-minute periods where I didn't really want to get started on something big. I started adding pictures and stuff. So obviously this is clearly not finished. It looks much better today because I've been working on it this past week because it's like, oh my goodness, it's almost November. But you can kind of see that I've started putting information in there. And I found that was useful for me to just build it in piecemeal sections. But sometimes I have kind of an ongoing to-do list in Trello, and I just have a little spot that says November newsletter ideas. And I just throw in there little things like, oh, I want to make sure to highlight book flicks and how people can use it from the state library this month. So that way, when it comes to actually sitting down and making the newsletter, I already have kind of a to-do list of things that I could include. Another suggestion is make it consistent. You know, maybe every month you have a section of your newsletter that highlights new books. Great. That is something you no longer have to think about. You just have to go get those new book pictures and add them in. Or maybe every month you make sure you take, 2 pictures of you collaborating or teaching or doing a fun thing in the library. That makes it easier for you that you're not constantly, starting all over from scratch every time. You know that you have these boxes to fill and you just need to fill them again.
We do have a question in the chat, Amanda. It says,
Uh-huh.
can you put children's pictures in brochures without their permission?
I would not put them in anything that's going to be like put on the web or anything that where you don't have permission. So in a school setting, that's a lot of times easier because usually schools will collect parent permission at the beginning of the year. So you might just have to, like, I could just go ask my office, hey, can you give me a list of people who are approved to have their picture on the internet? I oftentimes will try to avoid taking full on pictures of kids. I'm actually really pretty cautious about that. And it does make it a little less fun, to be honest, because you want to see their cute little faces. But I do a lot of times where it's like kind of a head down shot where you can't exactly tell who someone is. Even if I have permission to put them on the web, just because I don't know, I just feel awkward about it a little bit. But then again, I see tons and tons of pictures that our schools are putting out there. So there's that. If you are at a public library, yeah, you're probably going to want to get people's permission, unfortunately. I would do that for anybody under 18. I do not know the actual law for that, but I would definitely ask.
Thank you.
My final one is just to use a proofreader, and it does not have to be the person who loves grammar so much at your job. It could just be anybody. Just have somebody read it and say, does this make sense to you? For obvious reasons, I suppose. All right, so copyright, know your rights and the rights of others. So we talked a little bit about taking pictures of people, but let's say you have a patron who takes a really great picture of your library program on Facebook, and you want to use it, make sure you ask them permission. If someone photographs something, they have the right to that photo, so you want to make sure that they approve of you using it. So that would mean even if it's a photo of you, if they took it, it's their picture. You want to use the advanced Google search to make sure to search for items that have been marked free to use or share. So sometimes we just use stock photos in a newsletter or in the library in general, and that is okay. But you're going to want to, when you're doing the search, go to this advanced search. And then down here, you will see usage rights. So click things that have been put forward with Creative Commons license. That means that someone has shared it with the intent of other people using it. As I tell my high schoolers in the newspaper class, you know, if a photo isn't yours and like somebody has put it on the web, there is always that small chance that something is on the web and it's marked free to use for share, but that person didn't have permission to do that. So, you want to be careful there, but for the most part, if you're not selling it, you're probably going to be okay. Again, Google free clip art. Lots of websites exist to provide free clip art. Be careful because some of them, you just want to make sure you know what you're clicking. Also, Teachers Pay Teachers has some cheap clip art, and there's some really creative teachers out there. I just paid 70 cents last week for some really 25 really cute arrows. And I know that's kind of silly, but it was just nice to have something I could grab and use. Okay, so talking about copyright, what about book covers? Okay, technically book covers are copyrighted and they're not free to use or share. But then again, I see them on posters all over the place. So what is reasonable there? I looked at 2 different blogs and I have a link to them here. So if you want to go and read their whole articles, for the most part, people have been using book covers to promote books. And that is not to say that they have the copyright rights to do that, but as this article says, it might be considered a reasonable risk, but the risk is probably quite small. And Library Thing, Goodreads, they all use book covers. So your mileage may vary there, but that's kind of where that falls. And we will talk a little bit about, there is one graphic design program that does offer book covers that have been requested from publishers. So you would have access to book covers with the rights to use them. And that is library aware, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So know your file formats. When you are using these programs, they're going to have a lot of different ways that you can save different things. So you want to know different file formats, and you also want to know how high a resolution things are getting saved at. So if you get really far advanced and you're using Photoshop, you're probably going to get really good at all these different file formats, because there are some that are saving, for example, layers in a picture so that you can enhance and de-enhance different things. If you're new to this, probably you're just going to want to know that there are different file formats and that sometimes some will be easier to use than others. If you are interested in file formats and you want to learn more, I would click the blog that's listed here, because it has a lot of more information and even kind of some video tutorials about these different things. I think this is one of those things where you're going to want to spend some time on it, because it's easy to say, for example, the JPEG on the left has a smaller file size, but then I purchased professional photos from a photographer and they came as JPEGs. So, you can still have a high resolution JPEG. It's just a different type of file. One thing I would suggest is if you really heavy use the screenshot, is stop using the screenshots. I use screenshots and used to all the time because it's a really quick way to crop a photo and put it into some place I want. But for example, like I said, we just got pictures done. So I was like, woohoo, a new picture of me, how exciting. And I went to put this in the slides. So for example, the one on the left, I downloaded the JPEG and then I cropped my picture in the slides, which was like 3 or 4 extra steps. But the one on the right, I just screenshotted the picture and you can see that there's a clear like quality difference there. All right, so here are the programs that I use and have used, not to say this is a comprehensive list at all. Smore I showed you at the beginning, I was using for newsletters, and it is very easy to use. It doesn't have a ton of flexibility. So it has a few different templates where you drag and drop things, and it looks very nice, but it's not going to do a whole bunch of different things. It's one of the least print friendly, although it has improved recently. It has a free trial, which is, I think, maybe 3 or 4 newsletters, and then it's $79. If you are an educator, every fall they do an educator discount around like August or so, where it's $59. But just be aware, I had used that for a couple years, and then this last year or two, they said, no, you have been a member, so you do not get the educator discount. I was kind of grumpy, which is part of the reason why I went to find other programs. It will go into social media just fine, through either an embed link or a direct link, and it is also very email friendly. Canva is up and down the #1 thing that I've seen people using in the past year and a half. And I asked on the Facebook page for Future Ready Librarians, like, what are you guys using to create graphic design stuff? And 90% of the answers were Canva. So be careful. It's not Canvas, which is a learning management system like Blackboard. It's Canva with no S at the end. And I think the reason that this one is so popular is because it's free for educators. It does take some time to sign up. So if you think you're interested in using this one, sign up for it, get your name in for that you're an educator if you are, because I think it took like 3 weeks for me to get approved. But you can use it in the meanwhile. It has a ton of different options. The nicest thing about Canva, in my opinion, is that they have different templates for different types of things. So they have a template for Instagram posts. They have a template for Facebook. They have a template for newsletters. They have a template for a poster that you want to be big. So if you sign up for the educator program or you sign up for a pro version, if you are in a public library, you can very easily scale things up and down. And it will make like PDFs that you can easily print, JPEG attachments, etc. And there's a lot of clip art built in as well. Piktochart is one that I've honestly used more for like reports. So Piktochart it does newsletters, but it's kind of geared more towards like business reports where you need a lot of number graphics or you need infographics. Which is great if you're making reports for your board and you need a lot of numbers and you just kind of want them to be a little fancier. I have never paid for this, so I cannot tell you how different the paid versus a free version is, but I did look it up and it is $39 if you are in education or in a nonprofit. And everything that I've seen come out of there, it looks pretty nice. Adobe Spark is something that I don't know a ton about, but I do see people use and enjoy. If you are familiar with Adobe products or you're already using like Photoshop or something, this is one that you will probably like and enjoy. It also has I don't know if it's Adobe Spark, but there is, I think it might be, that does video as well. So if you're interested in video, it might be something to check out. You know, it has a little more bells and whistles, so it's a little bit more complicated to get started with. And it does connect with Google Classroom, which is something I learned when I was putting this all together. If you are in education, they are doing a free for education with G Suite. So if your school has like Google email, so if you, like my school, my email is at mcpherson.com, but when I log in, it's a Gmail. That's the G Suite. So if you have something like that, then it is free right now. It is $20 a month for other users. And often I find that the Adobe products are kind of embedded in each other. So if you already have some sort of Adobe account, you might look in and see, okay, is this included in there? And Google Slides, you know, I've really learned a lot recently about how people are using Google Slides to do things that are not Google Slides, that are choice boards, Bitmoji classrooms, all kinds of stuff. So don't overlook just some of those basic tools that you're probably already using and how to use them differently. The nice thing about Google Slides is you can easily embed it in stuff, publish it to the web, share it with people, that kind of thing. I did also want to mention Canva also does have an option for sharing with other people, which is great. My public librarian, I was trying to use like a little section of my newsletter to highlight her programs, and I just sent it to her and said, hey, this is what I put together. Does this look okay? So it was nice that she could log in, she could see it, she could edit it in real time too. S'more, you can share stuff with people, but it's a little bit more complicated, or at least it was the last time I tried it. So if you're working as a team, that might be something to consider. And then there are just so many other programs to check out. A lot of these on this page are very, very specific. They do one thing and they do it well. So like I said, Remove BG, it takes the background out of photos. It's one trick. Like Text Draft just makes fun word art. But sometimes you want fun word art that you can put in to your Canva newsletter, or you can put into your Google slide. So when you're thinking about these things, think about how they kind of can merge into each other and make what you're having or what you can put together just more exciting. Email marketing is a huge thing that lots of businesses are interested in. So if you are interested in like email newsletters or getting in touch with patrons that way, I would highly suggest looking at some of the business marketing information, and this blog here is just one that goes into different programs that kind of help you build awesome looking emails. Some of the things I wanted to make sure to mention is LibraryAware. LibraryAware is tied to Novelist. It's an EBSCO product. One of my colleagues used it to make some really awesome stuff for her library. The nice thing about it was, like I said, the book covers, you had the copyright access to them. They were all kind of embedded as part of the program. You actually had, she had someone that she worked with in LibraryAware that helped her design like some logos and stuff. The downfall is just the cost. It's $600 per school. And when I contacted them, they said since I was working at 4 different buildings, it would be $600 times 4. And I was like, well, I just don't see that personally I'm going to get that much use or have that much, want to have that much of my budget tied up into this kind of program. But be aware that it is out there. If you're at a bigger school, maybe it's something that you can look into. And, you know, it may just be who you talk to within Novelist, because I know for a fact, as I said, my colleague was able to get like a month-long trial of it. And when I contacted them, they were saying, no, nobody does trials. Okay, well, just a heads up. Good luck. If you do it and you love it, let me know. I'm interested in what people come up with. So maybe you want to see what other librarians are up to, and that is a great way to find templates or find examples of what people are doing. So the librarian design and share.org, that's kind of more for public libraries. Of course, everyone loves Pinterest, although I'd never thought to look up library flyers on there. And the S'more Educator Hive is not just school librarians, but other educators as well. Something you want to think about is, can this easily be viewed on mobile? Does it need to be? You know, how are your patrons or stakeholders going to be viewing? So at the beginning, I kind of talked about printing versus not printing. But, you know, if we're talking about high school students, or honestly, even teachers, you know, how are they going to be viewing what you're giving them? So for example, I take in 3 things here that I've made, just so you can see what do they look like on a phone. So these are just screenshots from my phone. So this one over here is a Bitmoji classroom I created with Google Slides. And as you can see, it did not scale down super well. You can see it, but you really can't interact with it because it's so small. S'more really scaled down very nicely, and it does scale down very nicely for phones. And so if you scroll through the newsletter, everything fits in that little line. You don't have to go back and forth and up and down. You can just go down. Canva, this was a newsletter, and I believe in this format, I had downloaded it as a PDF. So I don't know, it's kind of in the middle. You know, my words aren't too small, so you can kind of see it. The pictures are a little blah, but so kind of in between. And part of that is definitely that this Google slide on the left, I had made longer because I wanted it to fit a big screen, because it's on the top of my Destiny homepage on my library, and I have it also on the top of like my Facebook. So you can change the size and width of Google Slides, and that probably would change how it would look on a phone. I'm going to stop a bit for questions, and then what I was going to do was just kind of go into a few of these programs and just kind of show you what it looked like from there. But does anyone have any questions before I dive into the program?
We don't have any questions in the chat right this moment, so if you do have a question for Amanda, put it in the chat and I'll read it for you.
Okay. Okay, so these Google Slides, I just want to say thank you to Lori Smith. I don't know if she's here, but she sent out a Bitmoji classroom this fall, and I knew nothing about Bitmoji classrooms until she sent it out. I mean, I kept seeing people making them, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is amazing. How did they do this? So I just took her template and added my own people in. So this is a Google slide. It has me, like a Bitmoji person of me. And then I have this embedded, as I said, into my main page of my Destiny. So if I go in to my drive, it is a live link. If I change, you know, where I'm standing, it's going to immediately change on my page. So that's a nice feature. Also, when I got the template, it had links. So all these little pictures are links to book trailers, which has been great. it's probably getting about time for me to switch out the books, but I also was able to add links for, like, this is a direct link for our book fair, which is going on right now. So then next week we'll have some other direct links. So this page setup, so when it says page setup here, this is actually for this choice board. So I'm going to go to the web so you can see. So my remote learners, they asked me to make a choice board for students who are remote learners. And I did not copy this template, but I looked at what, I'm going to blank on her name. The Van Meter readers, I'm sure somebody's going to know who that is, to see what she had made. So all these little links are live. So if you click on the picture, it'll go to different pages.
Kim Patton shares that was Shannon Miller. So
yes, I knew somebody would know what it was. So I just looked at hers and I was like, okay, I can figure that out, because when you just look at the blank page, I'm like, okay, I don't know. But then I was like, okay, so she had some lines up here and then she had something over here, and I just have to see it visually.
And Marcy shared as well, for those of you that don't have your chat open, there is she said that she started following a Bitmoji group on Facebook and has grabbed lots of ideas. So that link is right in the chat. So if you want to open that link up and save it as a bookmark or pin it to your, so.
Yeah, and that is great, because I keep seeing people, they've got little, I'm like, wow, you decorated your Bitmoji classroom better than I have like my own home decorated. But so to get it to fit nicely on like a computer screen, I did a 20 by 10 inch Google slide. And then when you publish it to the web, when you get to this page, that way like a kid sees it and they can interact with it, but you're not like sending them a copy or something where they're actually editing it. Okay, so then Canva, one of the things I wanted to point out was something I mentioned, which is kind of using pieces and things that you already have and kind of merging them together. So for example, our high school is doing an online Junior Library Guild book fair. And Junior Library Guild gave me this lovely graphic that's this top part up here, and said that this is a good way to promote your fair. And I was like, well, yeah, it is a great way to promote, but it needs something more, right? It needs the link so that people can get to it. And if I print it, it needs to have something that's easy for people to get there. So this is a combination of their JPEG from Junior Library Guild, a QR code maker, and this is just the one I used here, and then Bitly to shrink down the link so that if somebody looks at it and they're like, okay, I don't know QR codes, they can just type in the Bitly link and it's not a big old long one. So this is what I put up in my school so that people, so this went on our Facebook, but it also went on a poster on the wall. And I was just going to take you to Canva so you could see what it looked like on there. So you have the option of uploading pictures, photos, and elements in text. So I was going to show you my November newsletter because it's kind of getting a little bit closer. You can see kind of where I've gone and where I haven't quite gotten completed. So that was a page that I still haven't finished the bottom because I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with that big long box. But then I've started to add things. So like this page was already built, like it was already a feature of the newsletter. But then some of them I've been kind of trying to add in my own pieces and organize in my own way, which you can usually tell when it's not, when it's my organization versus someone else's. But you can see here, they have a lot. And sometimes I take it and I think, oh, well, I just don't like the colors, so I change the colors. Or, you know, I need an extra page or I need extra pictures. Does anyone out that's here have another program that they use that I haven't mentioned? Maybe.
I don't see anything in the chat yet, but I'll keep an eye on it and let you know if I do.
Oh, okay. So there's, like I said, there's all these programs, but again, there's so many things you can do probably with tools that you are already using. Like I knew I wanted to create this in Google Slides, but I wanted it to look a little more interesting, and Google Slides doesn't have a ton of template designs. So I downloaded this template design just to kind of make it stand out a little bit more. So that's something that, you know, just go out there and see what's available, what people have already made, and then just make it your own. That was really pretty much all I had, if no one had any questions.
If you have any questions, you can just unmute and ask those now of Amanda. I'm sure she'll be happy to share.
Thank you, people, for coming. Ah, Lori was here. Thank you, Lori, for your template. It was amazing.
And we have lots of good ideas. Thank you. Thanks, Amanda. Thank you, Amanda. So now we've got some people thanking you. So that was
I
wonderful.
know, it's like crickets, but yeah.
You're a rock star for the afternoon. Well, not quite afternoon. We're getting there, but good job. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Amanda. And I might mention that the award ceremony is at 12:15. So you should have received a link to that. And then sessions will start back up in this room again at 2 o'clock. So thank you, Amanda. That was
Thank you.
super as usual.
Thanks.